This is He Who Moans, Doctor Who Reviews. I only complain because I like Doctor Who and I care. And I overanalyze too much because, whatever, it's just my opinion. I'm not going to do that this week. I'm going to do a positive video for a change. And it's only really fitting that my first ever positive video should be about my favourite episode of Doctor Who. All 50 and a bit years of it, my favourite episode is Fury from the Deep. How can it be my favourite episode when I, like anyone who wasn't alive in 1968, have never seen it? Well, because it works perfectly fine as narrated soundtrack for one, and secondly, if we're making a list and count the audios, my numbers 2 and 3 can't be seen either. But Fury from the Deep just works so unbelievably well that, in all honesty, it would work however it was told. Sure, I'm longing for it to be returned one day, in fact I'd explode with delight if it was, but it works perfectly fine on audio, and I'll explain why. Fury from the Deep has maintained its popularity out of the missing episodes despite it not really containing a whole lot of elements that the ones we go off about do. Does it contain anything we now consider to be standout moments, like a regeneration or a new Doctor? Well, the sonic screwdriver was introduced. Yeah, this is the episode you can blame for that. Is it known for having exceptional direction and cinematography like Web of Fear? No. Hell, even the monster's not that well known, and a bit silly, even by 1960s Doctor Who standards. It's seaweed and evil foam. Say that out loud, people. Seaweed and evil foam are the villains in an episode of Doctor Who. Was it even particularly critically acclaimed upon its broadcast? Well, no. And yet it's usually included in the same breath as Marco Polo, Power of the Daleks and Dalek Master Plan as the lost classics that are the most sought after. If Space Pirates or Underwater Menace got found, not as many people would give a shit. But if Fury got found, it would be a massive deal, even though all it's really known for is being considered really, really good. Call me a blinkered optimist, but I doubt it would be subject to a whole lot of reappraisal either. People make a big point of saying that when Tomb of the Cybermen got discovered, it didn't really live up to the legacy it built while being lost, and then once it was found, it merited slight disappointment. But I think that's more down to the surviving soundtracks not being as widely available beforehand. Its reputation was very much based on word of mouth. Whereas Web of Fear's audio and reconstruction was heard and seen enough prior to recovery for us to pretty much know that it was gonna be awesome. Yeah, I know that Enemy of the World was underrated because it was a highly visual story and then we realised how awesome it was, but I don't think Fury would suffer that much from the visuals being there because do I really need to show you this clip again?
What are you doing in here? Is there something that you want?
Want to see more? Well, tough shit, we've got barely 3 minutes of it. And also a bizarre instance of an alternate camera angle sequence, and a making of 8mm home video film. Yeah, Fury from the Deep is unique in having DVD extras but the main features missing. Fury from the Deep's strong points are the script and performances. Foam and seaweed monsters is hardly a premise that'd have you quaking in your boots, and when you say what Fury from the Deep is actually about out loud to yourself, it sounds stupid, but the performances made you buy it. I'd also say that the music's key as well. As a fan of moody, dark, atmospheric, pretentious music, I obviously dig the soundtrack to this one, especially the heartbeat that's just ever present, drumming into the surroundings. It's probably the best use of music and sound effects in Doctor Who history, portraying cabin fever and madness stuck on this oil rig perfectly. It helps create the atmosphere of Fury from the Deep so well that it just really gets under your skin. I also mentioned direction, and while it's not known for having amazing direction, the stills make it look like it probably did look pretty stunning, and I wouldn't be surprised if the ending of episode 3 wouldn't have stood out among Classic Who as one of the eeriest shots in the show's history, next to of course the evil gas-breathing people in episode 2. Victor Pemberton's writing here is also incredibly vivid, and it's paired with some stunning performances, especially from Deborah Watling, who makes her exit here, and the performances more than make up for the rather silly monster, and they just sell the hell out of it. Yeah, the silly monster may end up dampening the terrifying tone somewhat if it does end up getting found, but I highly doubt it, as this soundtrack is so atmospheric that nothing would kill the vibe you get from this story. When people talk about Doctor Who getting you to hide behind the sofa, when they're not talking about the Daleks, this is the one that should come to mind. Taking such a silly idea and making it this skin-crawling and nightmare fuel is what cemented this one as one of the missing stories we want back most, and it does make you sad thinking it was the last story ever to be junked and to stay missing. It's a shame that Victor Pemberton never wrote much more for Doctor Who. His other notable sci-fi related efforts were the rather throwaway radio drama Doctor Who and the Piscatons, and also an earlier unrelated radio serial called The Slide, which was an idea that he based Fury from the Deep around. It basically runs like Fury but with oil creatures instead of seaweed creatures, and stars a pre-master Roger Delgado. It's really worth a look if you're interested. Highly recommended from me. So yeah, overall, as I said, my favourite episode, and my only positive video so far. Wow, I actually really did that. Maybe I'm getting less formulaic. Anyway, next week, more bitching as usual.